There are tons of deployment errors that are going to screw you in the game of Warhammer 40,000. Today, I'm going to talk about one. I might give you a few bonus things to think about, but I'm going to talk about the one that matters the absolute most. I was actually doing a coaching call with a client recently, and over our calls, we've been going through all of these finer details, and they have a great understanding of the game, and they are actually doing everything really, really well, and they're actually performing extremely well in all of their trial games. We're really, really happy. So what I decided to do is I figured let's do a practice deployment against each other in order for us to like diagnose what the next error was. And as soon as we did the practice deployment, I saw the error that is holding him back, and it's an error that is holding tons of people back. And I never would have even seen it if we hadn't had that like practice little coaching match, which is what coaching matches are for, by the way. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Subtle, Jonathan. But I was able to just diagnose this one critical error that a lot of people suffer from. So what is this number one critical error? Guys, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Here it is. Not planning out your movement phase while you're deploying. So what I'm going to go ahead and do today for you is I'm going to actually explain this in detail, and I'm going to be using TTS to do it. So I'm going to show you actually a almost perfect recreation of the scenario that I came across in our coaching match, so that I can share that with all of you guys, so you don't make this error, so that you can learn as well to not make this error, and you can just have way more successful deployment phases and more successful games of Warhammer 40,000 in general. So let's just hop right over to the TTS screen, and I'm going to demonstrate what it is. But really, real talk, guys. Don't be Erebus. Erebus makes bad mistakes and he ruins everything. Don't make bad mistakes and ruin everything, all right? Plan your freaking movement phase while you're deploying. Don't finish deploying and then figure out what you're going to do if you go first or if you go second. It is a disastrous way to play the game, and it will lose you tons and tons of matches. But if you plan appropriately, if you plan for what you're going to do in your movement phase while you're deploying, man, sometimes you can just win round one. So here, I'm going to switch my screen over to the TTS view, and I'm going to demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you several different examples of how this operates. You're going to improve your gameplay just instantaneous off of this one. So, hit the like, share, subscribe, things like that. Anyway, so this is a TTS screen. This is a screen of more or less where we were deploying. So it's going to be orcs versus the Tyranids. So this is where I get my orcs all deployed. It's just a couple things for you guys to note is inside purple truck, blue truck, green truck, I have Breaker Boys and Tank Busters. Inside the red truck, I've got Beast Snagga Boys led by a Beast Snagga Boss, or Beast Boss, I mean. Yellow truck, I've got Gretchen. So I've got a couple things here allayed really critically. Like all these guys are very important where they're standing. I've got one unit of commandos sitting in this natural expansion for my opponent. So on this table, that my opponent's natural expansion is really this one, and my natural expansion is really this one. It's a little bit of an awkward table. Neither one of us really likes it. He is playing the assimilation, and I am playing the orcs here. So the first major critical error that my opponent didn't realize when he was making this deployment is he didn't understand off the bat, which he definitely understands now, where he was going to have to deploy with all of his big monsters. So when you look at a deployment like this, it's search and destroy, it's linchpin. You already know that no matter what, you're going to have to take advantage of this area and this area for your deployment. Like if you look at my map, I'm taking advantage of this area, and I'm taking advantage of this area for my deployment, because these are the places where I cannot be annihilated turn one. So this is what happens. But now once you recognize that you're going to have to be deploying, say like here, and especially with a monster heavy Tyranid list, or let's say you're playing Imperial Guard, you're going to have a lot of tanks here, or if you're playing Tau, you're going to have whatever. Well, a Tau, not so much, it doesn't really matter, but anything that has big monsters or big vehicles that don't necessarily fly, you're going to have to be able to utilize this area of staging. Just because if you're standing here, I mean, I've got like freaking tank busters that can run out and just blast the crap out of you. I got tank busters that can run out, blast the crap out of you. I got tank busters that can, you guys get the point. So like I can basically just turn one nuke and murder any monster vehicle in the game fairly easily. So since he doesn't want that to happen, we're going to have to deploy safely. Now, the second that he has to deploy safely here with all of his monsters clumped up, this is a game-losing error. If this can just be game-losing if he doesn't win the roll-off to infiltrate here. So he actually did win the roll-off to deploy here, to infiltrate here. And instead of infiltrating here, he chose to infiltrate here. And this is actually not a bad idea, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. But if I go first in this scenario, now that my commandos are stuck in this position, turn one, I will just move my commandos up 6 inches. Or honestly, I'll probably just, I won't even move them up. I'll just advance them. And I'll just have them stand right here, right? And they're just going to go all standing right here. No problem. No one cares. And they're just going to move something like this. Maybe that was too far. And what this is going to do is it's going to completely ruin my opponent's entire turn 1. Now he just can't move out. Now, the reason I never would want to charge, even if I don't think the Norn could actually kill the whole squad, I still wouldn't want to charge because that would allow him to fall back over me. So if it was like a tank, or for example, like the tank could then fall back over you and get into a good position. So a lot of times you don't even want to charge anyway. But this ability right here more or less wins the game for me because now it's going to force his entire army to have to pivot this way, or just waste an entire turn standing here killing commandos, which I'm basically happy to do because for the rest of my turn, I'm also going to be aggressively staging here, probably advancing these guys as far as I can, moving one truck to be right here so I can disembark and advance and move stuff. These guys will all just full send in other directions as well. So it basically wins me the game just as all the beautiful staging that I can get. So when now my client could have avoided this had he thought about exactly what he was going to do if he went first or if he went second. Instead, he just went ahead and claimed a reasonable place. So the correct answer to do it for him, since he's got multiple infiltrators, is that he should 100% have taken a lictor and deployed it roughly here. Because once this lictor is deployed here, you guys can see this area of where like I can't deploy. Now, there's no way I can jail him turn 1 with my infiltrators. And I can't even stop him from claiming his objective. So now he has very easy access to secure no man's land, cleanse, sabotage, whatever. It gives him bunches of different options for scoring secondaries. He can get containments. But just by allowing me to place my 1 infiltrator squad here, if I go first, I will now deny him easy secure no man's land. I will deny him cleanse. I will deny him containment. I can basically deny him engage. There's so many things that I can deny him just by deploying here if I go first. So you cannot allow your opponent to do that. You have to think about what happens if you go first, what happens if you go second. Because me deploying here, if the Tyranids go first, he's fine. It's no problem. He just comes in, he just does murder stuff. It's no big deal. But if I deploy here and orcs go first, it's almost game ending for him. So when you're deploying, you have to think about what happens if you go first, but you also have to think about what happens if you go second. Okay, so the way that we correct this is we deployed his infiltrator here. Now, the infiltrator being deployed here stops me from putting my commandos anywhere in position. And that really opens up this entire edge of the battlefield, and it leaves me with no great place to place commandos, which means my commandos are likely going to have to go back here, which is much less threatening for him than it was for basically anywhere else. I might actually end up with commandos like in this position, simply because there's no way he's going to shoot me with anything other than a terrain effects, and it's really not that bad. So, and if I go first here, I can still kill like gargoyles and type of terrain effects. So I might honestly just leave the commandos right here, if he does claim this error. So this was the biggest error that would instantaneously lose the game. I see tons and tons of people do stuff like this while they are playing Warhammer because they're not considering what happens when they go first or go second. They're only considering in deployment what do they do if they go first, or they're only assuming what do they do if they go second. So you have to think about both things. So on a map such as this, you cannot allow your opponent's infiltrators to deploy in such a critical staging in such a critical place as to deny half your army's movement turn 1. You always need to be looking at this. I would look for these things before I would even place models. Before I deploy anything, I would automatically always analyze the battlefield. I say, okay, cool. What is my deployment zone? So I'm orcs, for example. What is my deployment zone? What do I have to do if I go first? Well, if I go first, I need to be able to get containment here. I need to be able to get containment here. I need to be able to get area denial here. I need to be able to get secure no man's land here, and here, or here, and here. But this is much harder because it's much further away. So this is a really bad cleanse, really bad secure no man's land position. So I don't necessarily need to get here. That means I need to be able to get here, and I need to be able to get here. So I've got Storm Boys that can easily get to the center. I could also disembark things and get to the center. I could very easily get a truck up here. I could very easily get this truck up here. I could easily contain here. I could easily contain here. I could easily touch here. So it really opens me up for basically any secondary I could possibly draw turn 1. And it also allows me to, with my commandos being placed in this position, sorry, I need to back them up just a little bit. It really allows me to, kill one of his units early and tie another one of his units up for at least a round or 2. So those are things that I really want you to analyze when you're deploying. Now let's talk about some of the other interesting things that you may have seen on the deployment that seemed a little funny. So why was his lictor deployed here? Because it wasn't a bad decision. Well, the lictor is deployed here because what he's doing now is he's forcing me to kill this lictor if I draw area denial turn 1. Which is a problem, because what I'd love to be able to do is just, put my Storm Boys right here and say, ha, I get area denial. But now I can't, because now I'm only going to score 2 points of it instead of 5 points. So I'm really going to want to actually have to kill this lictor, which is a problem because I don't want to charge it with orc bodies, because the lictor is probably going to kill a bunch of orc bodies since it has fights first. So it's actually a pretty good place for him to deploy it. Against other armies that might have a lot of shooting that can, surpass the lictor's stealth ability, then maybe it's not as great a position. But against me, it actually is a really good position. It just shouldn't be the priority number 1 drop for him. The priority number 1 drop should be securing his natural expansion and securing his exit from his deployment zone. And if you're using infiltrators, I highly recommend you think very similarly. So that's the number 1 error that deployment people always make in deployment. Don't make it yourself. Tons of people do. If you have made a mistake, don't feel bad. I've seen amazing players. For example, my client. My client is a fantastic player who plays at a very high level, but he made this mistake. Lots of people make these mistakes. Don't feel bad about it. Just correct it and make sure that you don't make the same mistakes in your game. I think that's basically all I wanted to do for this video here. I just wanted to give you guys a really quick, super easy to grasp lesson about deployment and what you should prioritize and what really should be prioritized second, right? It's really cool to claim the center. It's really cool to do things like that. But number 1, you have to protect yourself in case you go first or second. And by claiming your natural expansion in such a way that I detailed here, you 100% will do that. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Forgive my voice. I am getting over a bout of the plague. I'll be back to regular daily video drops for sure next week. I think I'll be able to get one out tomorrow as well, assuming that I continue to heal and recover. Freaking Nurgle gave me the biggest hug, and while I love the hug, I'm tired of it. I don't want it anymore. All right, with that, I'm going to take off. This was Happy Cropping. Love you all, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.